Hi, good evening, everyone. How are you doing? I love the fact that before we even went live, the comments had already started and everyone's saying hi to each other. And Alice is already nervous about the whiskies that we're going to be tasting today, but please don't be nervous. They're both delicious. I highly rate them. Thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us for what is, can you believe it, our 12th whiskey tasting. This is 1 year of our whiskey in this guise as a subscription club. I can't believe I've managed to keep it going for that long, but I'm also so thrilled that all of you have been along with me for the journey, because wow, what a journey it's been, and the amount of amazing whiskies we've tasted along the way. And I'm just so grateful for all of you for being with us for every step of the way too. Now, as well as saying thank you to you all for joining us and celebrating our 1 year anniversary. I should have won a party hat and I should have got streamers or something, but typical fashion, I wasn't prepared. So hopefully some of you have got little hats on at home, and a couple of you said that you'll be celebrating in style. So please do. Listen, thanks everyone for supporting everything we're doing. It really means a lot, and hopefully we can continue for another year and longer and keep bringing you wonderful whiskies to try. And we definitely have two amazing whiskies lined up for you this evening. Those of you who've been with me since the very, very beginning will have probably tried one of these before, because we featured it as part of the OurWhisky festival, the very first. Was it the first one or the second one? I can't remember now. I tell you, I know that Tabby, maybe Chris Ratcliffe, will know whether this was in the first or the second iteration of the festival. But it's back anyway, because I absolutely love this whiskey and I really wanted to share it with everybody. And the second whiskey is a new one for OurWhisky. We've not tried it before, but actually the person presenting it is a lifelong friend of OurWhisky and of myself. So I'm really thrilled to welcome him. I'm just going to introduce them now, to be honest, because they're sat in the green room and I'd rather bring them on so you can all say hi. So really excited to introduce, please welcome the really lovely Alex Thomas.
Hi, Becky. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Doing really well. Thanks so much for inviting me on. I
love that you have like the whole proper setup.
Oh yes, home from home.
Yeah, you've got this in your house. It looks amazing. Very professional, beautiful. Really looking forward to tasting the Bushmills 16 with you. Last time we were with your predecessor, Helen Mulholland, and now Alex, you've stepped into the role as master blender at Bushmills. So thrilled to hear all about it from you.
Yeah, very excited to be here as the master blender for Bushmills. It's a dream come true for me.
Really happy to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. And of course, we're going to be welcoming, please put your hands together for Brendan McCarran, master blender over at, I don't know, like, do I have to list all the distilleries? Can I just say Distel?
Yeah, you can kind of say Distel, but it's soon to change names as well, because there's a bit of a takeover happening at the moment, so it's going to be something else. Yeah, but it's well, obviously Bunnahabhain and Deanston, but tonight it's Ledaig at Tobermory.
Now, I think that's probably the first thing we need to address is how we pronounce it, because I think the fact that you've just called it Ledaig and I've been calling it Ledaig, and I think other people have probably butchered it as well. So can you confirm for us the correct pronunciation?
So I even during my interview was calling it Ledaig, because I was told 10 years ago it's Ledaig, and I took that as word. But when I first arrived at Tobermory Distillery, I met the assistant manager at that time, now distillery manager, Cara Gilbert, and it was Cara and her now assistant manager, Simon Proud. And I kept saying, I love Ledaig, and eventually they took me into a quiet little corner and they said, can we have a word? And I was thinking it was something about, conditions or an idea. Or I was like, yeah. And I'm super enthusiastic and excited about my new job. And they went, a chicken lays an egg. And I was like, right. And they were like, lay chick. And I was like, I've got it now. Got it. So Ledaig is how you pronounce it.
Ledaig. Okay, got it.
Ledaig.
Which do you think people most have trouble pronunciating? Is it Ledaig or Bunnahabhain?
So I'd say Ledaig. Ledaig definitely causes way more controversy than Bunnahabhain. So with Bunnahabhain, it's you can say bun or bon, but in an Isla accent, it's Bunnahabhain. So I always say Bunnahabhain because I'm like a broken record. I used to live in Isla. That's my catchphrase, and that's how the Elux say it is Bunnahabhain. But with that one, there's a little bit of mispronunciation. But honestly, Ledaig, there's 10 or 20 different versions of it. And some people are very confident, confidently incorrect, as they call it in Reddit, that they know how it's pronounced. And I'm like, I don't know what to say to you.
Chicken lays an egg. I hope everyone remembers that now. I'm going to remember it because I won't butcher it ever again. Chris, yes, I think you're correct. The Bushmills 16 that we had before was the Club Tropicana tasting. And you are also correct in that we used to do 5 samples in one night. Which now seems like a hell of a lot, but let's face it, we had nothing better to do.
Yeah, that sounds like lockdown stuff, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, my God, we had a party. If anybody was with us during that time, I remember, so maybe Chris and Tabby remember this. Were you getting through all of the samples in one night? Because I mean, they were 25 ml, I think, so they weren't quite the big 50 ml that we have for our whiskey now, but still 5 seems quite hefty. Anyway, really happy to have both Brendan and Alex with us. If you have your tasting pack with you, then grab it out now, open it up. So this is what your pack looks like. If you are new to OurWhisky or you don't know what we're about, you've just come across this video, we send out these tasting packs through the post to everyone. They're nice and thin, so they come straight through your door. And inside here, you will find 2 whiskies, 2 50 ml whiskies. I'm going to try and hold those up so they're not reflective. 2 50 ml whiskies for you to enjoy, and they each come with a couple of tasting note cards as well. So again, I think that's too reflective. I can't really show you. Which have got all your details on there, tasting notes, everything. So get those packs out now. Get your glasses at the ready. We're going to start having a pour. For those of you who saw the email that came out, this whole tasting was going to be designed around Women's History Month, because this is our 12-month anniversary, our first year anniversary, because this is the UK's only whiskey subscription club that's founded by women, and we are all about empowering women. We give a certain percentage of our profits to the OurWhisky Foundation as well. We wanted to really celebrate female-made whiskies on the tasting this month. So obviously we've got Bushmills by the lovely Alex Thomas and Ledaig, which also has 2 women behind the helm. We have Cara Gilbert, who's master distiller at Tobermory Distillery, and we also have Julieann Fernandez, who's the master blender. Now you might have noticed that neither of them are on the call right now. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it. So Brendan has very kindly agreed to step in and be an honorary woman for the evening. It's all about Ledaig when a little bit later on. So thanks so much, Brendan, for stepping in. Appreciate it. Yeah,
happy to be here. And, I'm sure Cara and Julieann would love to be here, but just the date just didn't quite work. But they did, have huge part in making the whiskey. So that's what counts.
Nice. Well, I'm super pleased to have you here. Thank you so much. We'll get into the tasting. I'm also loving seeing all of these the comments reminiscing about the OurWhisky Festival, which was so wonderful. There was a sweetie one. Were you involved in the sweetie one, Brendan, or was that just Bill?
I think that was just Bill. Was that maybe Taylor Cake or something?
No, come on, guys. You're gonna have to. My memory is super bad.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I've done. We had a really great tasting, 5 whiskies and 5 sweet pairings, and I remember them champagne truffle paired with Glenfiddich's Grand Cru. There was a toffee popcorn, salted caramel popcorn paired with Ardbeg Wee Beastie. That might have been Colin actually that presented that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sarah Rose did the tasting with the sweets. Excellent. And Nicole. Oh my goodness. Maybe we should bring this back, you guys.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, let's do it right now.
I feel like we need to go, retro is a whole theme at the moment. So I feel like maybe we need to go a bit retro. Anyway, right. I'm getting too deep into this. Let's crack on with the tasting. We're going to head to Bushmills first. So Brendan, I'm going to say goodbye to you for now, put you into the green room, and hand over to Alex. Alex, please can you tell us a little bit about Bushmills?
So Bushmills Distillery is the oldest licensed distillery in the world. We were granted our license on the 20th of April, 1608 by King James I. It was more in recognition of the quality of whiskey that we were making at Bushmills more than the fact the first time it had been made there for many, many years before it. But King James recognised that and granted the license to Sir Thomas Phillips, a local landlord and governor of the area. And from then, we haven't looked back. We've been making the same whiskey there for over the 400 years. We are a single malt distillery, so it's one type of grain in one distillery. And we triple distill our whiskey, and we use our water for St. Colum's Rill. So St. Colum's Rill flows through the limestone and basalt rock of the Giant's Causeway, and hence you'll see a lot of the shapes and symbols that we use at the Bushmills pays homage to that. There may be a little hint in there about the battle between the Irish and the Scotch, but we'll maybe not mention that now. So we triple distill our whiskey, and then we lay it down in a variety of different casks at the distillery. So we do use oak, but we are very fortunate in Ireland that we can use many types of wood. And they stay in our warehouses there for many years, and we're very fortunate to have over 450,000 casks on site at any one time. So we have a longevity there and a history there for many, many years. Obviously, we have launched with our blends there for many years. Our 10-year-old launched in 1983, and then in 1997, our first of our 3 woods came about, which would have been our 16-year-old, which you're going to get to taste tonight. It's a phenomenal whiskey, 3 wood. I've got some of them here just so you see the difference. So it spends 16 years in bourbon and 16 in sherry. So you can see here, this is our European oak. So our European oak, all of our casks are actually made specially for us. So we work with cooperages all around the world to ensure that we can get the quality right from the tree when it's cut down through the seasoning process and right into the cask when it arrives with us and gets filled with our beautiful aquavitae. It also spends its time in our American oak. Again, we have these partners with the American oak to ensure that we get the quality from the wood that we're looking for. So after 16 years, we take it out of there and then we put it into our amazing, you can see the color on the side of that.
Wow.
Our beautiful port casks. So our port casks are constructed for us as well, seasoned for 2 years with the port of our choice. And then the cask comes over where we fill it with a 16-year-old whiskey, which you're going to get to taste. So I'd say it's a long history of spirit we've been making. It's been a generational thing, hand down for many generations to come. And we've continued to make it the same way because people absolutely love what Bushmills is all about. Single malt is our craft, and we believe that that's the best way to make whiskey.
I absolutely love Bushmills whiskey, and for some reason the 16-year-old just is brimming with so much fruitiness. Is that inherent to the Bushmills spirit? Is that something that comes through that triple maturation?
We have a distinct Bushmills house style, so we do get a very delicate fruity spirit through from our distillation process. So it's all down to our barley, our cuts in our distillation process. We ensure that we get all of our barley, it's a low protein barley, so we can get as much of the sugars out of it naturally to help our fermentation. So we'll start off with about an 8.5% alcohol. That will gradually get stronger, so about 25%. Then it goes up to about 60, and we finally get about an 86% strength alcohol, which is really delicate and really fruity. So we never lose that in our maturation process. We more enhance it. So by adding in the different cask flavor profiles, you're getting probably about 80% of the flavor coming from the cask, but that 20% of the distinct house style is there. This one is truly a delight, and we love to call this our family favorite. If you come when you work at Bushmills, you seem to naturally just are drawn to this whiskey. So it's so versatile, it's so complex, and it shows you the versatility of Bushmills over 3 different types of woods. You're going to get those beautiful vanilla notes coming in, the cinnamon coming in from your American oak. You're going to get those beautiful fruits coming in, the Oloroso sherry, the figs, the raisins are there. And those have been complemented together with that beautiful port cask. So this is really what we would like to call unrushed perfection. We give it the time it needs. So that 16-year-old on the bottle purely means that's the youngest cask that has been put into there. There will be older, because what we ensure is the flavour of our whiskey. We want you to taste today what you tasted in the past and what you'll taste in the future. And that's my job as a master blender, to ensure that that consistency is there. Because when you find one you really love, you want to continue to get to enjoy it. So like, the first thing you'll notice in this one is that beautiful color. That ruby redness is coming through, influenced heavily by the port cask it's been spending 6 to 9 months in. Oh, breathe deep. This one really offers something complex. First thing I always get is that beautiful treacle toffee in there. The sweet spice, the cinnamon's in there, hints of coconut. Oh, those fruity flavors. Give this one a little taste. Let it linger in your tongue. If this is the first alcohol you had today, you're going to get that burn. So give it a second and then go again. Take another little sip. It's really full-bodied. You're going to get those beautiful caramelized fruits. You're going to get that beautiful toasted oak coming in. The honey's there, the praline's there. This one really is so smooth, so delicate. The finish on it is just lingering there. It gives you that beautiful jam berries aroma on the tongue, and it just sits there for that little second and says, let me have another sip.
That's absolutely stunning. I mean, I've always loved this Bushmills 16, but I can see why it's called the family favourite amongst everyone who works at the distillery.
For me, it's a very easy drinking whiskey. So for me, someone who's starting out in whiskey will really enjoy this. The delicate fruits are in there and the complex, even the chocolate notes are coming in. And it's a well-balanced whiskey that is there to let you try and introduce. Or someone who really appreciates whiskey for many years can get to embody each of the flavours. You can almost taste the American oak, the European oak, and the port cask individually. The palate just sits there and lets it come alive as the cask continues to breathe. So you get to experience a little bit of the flavors that we get in the distillery and the excitement that we get when we know these casks are ready. That's, for me, the dream job. I get to experience these for the first time, see that color that has been drawn from the wood, those beautiful aromas, and it really makes my job a joy.
Oh, I can imagine working with all those lovely casks it would be absolutely heaven. Walking into those warehouses would be insane. There is a question that's come in from Chris about the casks, and I'd like to know the answer to this. Are you maturing separately in the bourbon and the sherry and then blending them together and then putting that into port?
Yes, so it spends 16 years in bourbon cask, and separate liquid spends 16 years in the sherry cask, and then we marry them together in a vat, and then we put them into the port cask together. So that both the port and sherry get time, the bourbon and sherry get time to mingle together and then get finished off in the port cask. It just gives you that real embodiment of flavour and allows, say, the port to influence on the oak coming from the American as well as the European. And that's why, for me, the 16-year-old just really does embody what Three Woods about.
That's absolutely stunning. And it sounds like it's a hit with everyone at home as well. Nicole is saying she gets toffee apple on the nose and on the palate, as well as lots of brown sugar and fruit. I guess a lot of that's going to come from the toffee and the brown sugars coming from that lovely American oak. Sarah Rose gets grilled peach. I also get grilled peach and like barbecued caramelized pineapple as well, like really like sticky grilled pineapple. Tabby Spirit Bomb is getting marzipan and cherry bakewell. And which is weird because you said that and I'm like, oh God, of course it's a cherry bakewell.
There's hints of almond in there, and that's very much the complex side of the marzipan. And this is the wonderful thing about tasting whiskey. If it's more your personal perception. So if I said to you dried fruit, it's your, what do you accomplish that with? Is it something like a fruitcake when you were growing up? Is it certain types of fruit that you eat now? So it's very much a personal thing, but you're on the same path. Like the peaches is perfect because that's part of the distillate, but we would say it's a very peachy pear aroma coming off our stills. So the fact that people are picking that up, really fantastic to say that our Bushmills character is distinct there for them as well.
It's absolutely stunning. What is the difference between the flavour of this whiskey when it goes into those port casks as opposed to after the port maturation? So what we're tasting now, what impact does that port have?
The port really does bring in those jam berries, so there's much more of the fruitiness coming in, and the more of the if you think more onto the raspberries and the strawberries and those beautiful delicate fruit, whereas the European oak and the sherry will bring in more of your dates, your figs, your raisins, those types of fruits. And then obviously the European or the American oak will bring in more of the vanilla notes and the apple, a little bit of cinnamon in there. So it just really complex, brings them all together when you put them in the port cask. But the port cask, because it's only spent 6 to 9 months in there, really does get that opportunity to involve itself very much with both whiskies and bring them together into a really robust flavour. The colour comes mainly from our sherry cask and then really is vibrant red coming in from the port. So it depends, again, on what flavour profile you're looking for. At the beginning, when this was put down, it was an experiment to see what it would happen in the port cask. And it was unreal to find after 6 to 9 months that it really had taken on such a body from the port. It was just phenomenal.
Amazing. And I mean, we don't really hear that much from Bushmills. It's one of those really lovely classic distilleries, as you say, you know, it with the claim to the oldest working distillery in the world, 1608. But for all of that history and heritage, it's really a classic distillery with this classic whiskey. We see it on shelves everywhere. Bushmill is like a tried and tested, reliable single malt that you can go to time and again. But what are you doing in terms of innovation at Bushmills? What's happening that's new and modern and moving you forwards?
I think this is the wonderful thing about Bushmills. Innovation has been there for many years, and a belief in our brand has been there for many years. We have survived so many things, prohibition, world wars, fires on site, but the love of Bushmills and the flavour profile of Bushmills is something that our consumers have stayed loyal to. So we've always continued to innovate to see what we could bring out. Our Causeway collection is a perfect example of our innovation. This is our 3rd year past bringing out all of those different wine casks and flavour profiles, the first Irish whiskey in vermouth cask. So we want to experiment, we want to do different things. Our dream is to really revive the single malt category and to bring all those people who have fallen back in love with the Irish category something different, something that will excite them, something that brings them into the category for people that say whiskey's not for them. We just need to find what suits your palate, and that gives us the opportunity to create you a whiskey, and that's my job. Innovation is what I love. I want to bring people in, and the Causeway collection shows what we can do. Our whiskey is so complex and so versatile. It allows us to do so many different things. I say we're one of the oldest licensed distillery, which means we have an abundance of casks there of all age profiles. Some of them that we're currently releasing in an older range, which has never been heard of before out of Bushmills. So it's a really fantastic time to be in the Irish category. It's fantastic to be part of Bushmills, and we're ready. We've been called the sleeping giant for many years, but we were never sleeping. We were patient. We wanted to ensure each of our casks were given the time and the flavour profiles could be what they really needed to be so people could enjoy them and continue to enjoy them in that profile. So that's what we are continuing to do.
I love that idea of Bushmills being called a sleeping giant, but you were never sleeping. Things were always happening behind the scenes. And as you say, you've been creating liquid, producing liquid, letting it lay, maturing slowly, and you've now being able to release it at older age statements, which is really exciting. And I think for everybody else as well, like that Irish, we've had quite a few Irish whiskies with OurWhisky so far, and it's a really exciting category. And I don't think it would be anywhere near what it is without Bushmills having led at the front for so long, having done all the work that this distillery has done for such a long period of time. So, you know, rightfully has this great position as being a real classic malt. If anyone has any questions for Alex, then please do pop them in the comments, and we'll make sure we ask them to her. Brendan, I'm going to bring you back in just to get your thoughts on Bushmills. Are you very familiar with Bushmills these days?
Yeah. So obviously, once upon a time, Bushmills was part of the group that I worked for. You know, so I had some friends. I know Colm very well, and one of my friends who I was like on a graduate scheme with once upon a time when I had, you know, hair and looks and ambition. He got posted to Bushmills. Aaron is still one of my really close friends. So yeah, I've had an association with Bushmills the last 20 years, and you know, I love quite a few of the whiskies that are from there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Irish whiskey. I must say, I'm also a big fan of. I really think Irish whiskey is is sort of sitting on the precipice of a very exciting future, and I think Bushmills is going to be front and centre in that as well. And you can probably tell from my name, you know, Brendan McCarran is an extremely Irish name, and all 4 of my grandparents are from Ireland, so I have many associations. So, you know, being me, I'll somehow claim credit for the resurgence of Irish whiskey, just because that's what I do with everything. But no, I love Bushmills.
There was only 3 distilleries when I started 19 years ago in Ireland, and it's fantastic to see all of the new distilleries starting. And it is very much for me a family. I was trained by all of the distillers in Ireland, not just those at Bushmills, because they wanted anybody that was new coming into the industry to ensure that whatever we created great whiskies for the Irish category, and really stood out from all of the other brands that were out there, Scotch and everywhere else. And I think that's the wonderful thing about the Irish category. They're there to support anybody that's in the industry. All they want to do is revive it and see it back where it belongs.
Yeah.
Bushmills
was actually, and I'd forgotten about this until this very moment, was the very first distillery I ever went to. I think.
We'll have to come back and visit us again. We may have changed.
I haven't been back since. That was, believe it or not, the first distillery I went to would have been in 2012. It was also my first press trip with the spirits business. And I remember at the time I was deputy editor, and Richard Woodard, who was the editor and a good friend of mine, was reluctant to let me go because it was for Bushmills Live, which I don't know if anyone remembers Bushmills Live. It was just like a concert. There was no real news value to going on this trip, but I wanted to go. So he let me. And I remember it being, this sounds awful. I don't remember the distillery at all. I don't remember a single thing, because all I remember was being at this really small, intimate gig with the lead singer from Snow Patrol and Elijah Wood DJing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which was the most random thing. So I don't remember anything else. So I will have to come back to Bushmills and actually try and properly take it in. Yes, exactly. Yeah. There's this whiskey is absolutely amazing, and I love the comments that are coming in, all the tasting notes. I'm going to pick up, a couple of people have said cherry bakewell, and on the tasting note cards that I put out, I do have cocktail suggestions. These will be going on the website very soon, by the way, guys. I'm just collating them all. All the recipes will go up. But on the cocktail ideas for this, for Bushmills 16, I've put a whiskey fruit cup, which I think really would work well with all the fruitiness of the Bushmills, and an old fashioned. But actually, if anyone fancies trying it, I have a really great recipe for a cherry bakewell old fashioned. It's on my Instagram, but I'll post it on OurWhisky's Instagram channel, so you can have that too. But I think it would work brilliantly in that cocktail. So yeah, next time you're going to buy a bottle of Bushmills 16, try a cherry bakewell old fashioned, or save some of this bottle if you haven't drunk it all already. Yeah. My first thought was Elijah Wood, the pastor who charred barrels. You mean Elijah Craig? No, we're talking Frodo, not not Elijah Craig, the guy responsible for bourbon. That's not, if that's who you mean, that's definitely not it. Anyway, Alex, thank you so much for introducing us to Bushmills 16. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed this one. It seems like everyone else has as well.
I'm delighted to hear everybody's enjoying it. It's a fantastic whiskey, so continue to drink.
Stick around. We're going to come back to you again in a moment. I think if everyone's ready, we'll move on to the Ledaig.
Nice.
Thank you. I did have to think about it for a second. I'm going to get it wrong so many times. So we're going to move on to the Ledaig, which is a heavily peated single malt from Tobermory Distillery on Mull. And this one is slightly different, quite an interesting whiskey, I think. But the person who is better at explaining this would be Brendan, not me. So Brendan, if you can talk us through Ledaig, please.
Yeah. So as you say, we have one of our 3 distilleries is on the Isle of Mull. And this distillery is kind of tiny, this tiny little courtyard distillery on the Isle of Mull, which is called Tobermory. Yep, there it's there. So when you make whiskey at Tobermory Distillery, we do two styles of whiskey. So sometimes we make an unpeated whiskey, so we use unpeated barley. We do slightly less mashes and slightly longer fermentation, which is something I brought in 2 years ago. And we make Tobermory. But when we make heavily peated whiskey, so we bring in, you know, I try to avoid saying the ppm, but I know that people will just be on the chat when, what's the ppm? What's the ppm? You're looking at that 45 to 50 ppm phenol or higher. And when we bring that in, we make this intensely smoky, slightly filthy, mucky, salty spirit, and we call it Ledaig. So Ledaig was one of the names, the original names for the distillery. It's changed names back and forth throughout its history more times than probably I've had time to research, to be totally honest. But it makes this unbelievably intense, smoky whiskey. It draws many comparisons. Ledaig draws many comparisons to Islay, especially to the big three on the Kildalton coast. And yeah, I can see the similarities in that it is intensely smoked and it's kind of in your face at first. But it's also different. Of course it's different, but it's different in that, and people know I love smoky Islay whiskey, but smoky Islay whiskey, there's intense smoke, and below it there's almost like a brightness, an acidity, a sweetness. But with Ledaig, underneath the smoke, it's almost like everything gets even more intense and darker. So I always kind of think of, people say, what's Ledaig to you? And I think it's almost like, think like an old Victorian factory that's making something like paraffin or oil, and the factory's built out of wood and it catches fire, and the only way you can put the fire out is using seawater. That's the kind of style of spirit that runs off the stills when we're making Ledaig. So Chris has just said this is different smoke, almost industrial. That's exactly it. It's got this kind of farmyard, mucky, industrial intensity to it. And, you know, as with all whiskies, I would say, first of all, to clarify, but it's not for everyone. But the thing that's slightly different is the people who get it in a big way and kind of get obsessed with it.
It's an interesting kind of, because you get that lovely sweetness, but then you get the mucky oiliness and that kind of smokiness coming through as well. And you know, it's not often that I would describe a whiskey, because we categorize all our whiskies into 5 flavor camps, and it's not often that you find a peaty, fragrant whiskey. There's normally something else to it. There's spice or there's sweetness to it, but this one is really fragrant. It's got that kind of cut grass element to it.
Yeah, it's got that kind of
floral.
Yeah, it's got that kind of Brettanomyces sort of thing going on in there as well. There's this lovely farmyard, earthy minerality, but it's super salty. And then, of course, it is for Ledaig 18. There's 2 things that allow you, almost give you some breathing space to find flavours outside of the phenols. So the first part is you give it 18 years. So that's going to let the smoke naturally start to drop away. Is probably too much because people think it's fallen out of it, but just lower slightly. And then the recipe for this is 16 years, roughly. Don't follow this as if it's exact with a stopwatch, anyone that's watching. But we're looking at about 16 years in bourbon barrels and a solid 2-year finish in Oloroso sherry. So I joined the company 2 years ago, and officially I'm the master distiller, but I look after our whiskey making. And Julieann Fernandez is the master blender, so she's a key member of my team. And it was Julieann that talked me through the recipe. So, and you know what she loves about Ledaig 18 is she says she just loves the fact that 2 years. I think she was. I hope I'm not speaking on her behalf too much here or giving away any secrets to the family of whiskies at Ledaig. But she always said, look, 2 years, it seems a bit much. I think it's going to be too long a finish. I don't want to hide the smoke. But then she said to me, you are probably going to think the same thing, and that's fine. But honestly, it just sort of, the whiskey's pretty robust and it will hold up to it. And of course, because she is just super talented, frankly, she was absolutely right. So it probably is going to always be this kind of quite a long, full finish in Oloroso sherry casks. Gives it colour, gives it flavour, gives it this lovely cut to sweetness that goes through the salinity and that kind of crazy industrial note that comes into Ledaig.
It's an absolutely stunning whiskey. You don't almost expect that level of complexity when it's so delicate. And the smoke and the delicacy just works together so beautifully. It's really harmonized, and also the sherry maturation just doesn't scream sherry to me. It's so subtle.
Yeah. So that's the exact thing that Julieann kind of like said to me when I first came on board, and she wasn't leading the jury, you know, but she was saying, like, it probably sounds like 2 years is going to be like full on and, you know, not quite sherry bomb, but becoming quite first and primarily a sherried whiskey. And it's not. It's just, it's a seriously punchy, smoky spirit and salty and spicy. But yeah, I just think it's like what an incredibly balanced whiskey, you know, and it is this year, just to boast, it is whiskey of the year in one of the whiskey awards where it's a blind tasting. So 2023 to me is the year of Ledaig.
I was going to mention that, actually, the fact that it's won this award. So it's the Whiskey Exchange Whiskey Awards. They nominate their whiskey of the year, and it's a blind tasting. And I think they choose a selection of whiskies that are under a certain price. But I think it's under £85, and this one sits at £85.
Yeah, maybe under £100, I think, but I might be wrong. But I think it's under £100.
It's something like, it's like relatively affordable, and it has to be an expression that's always out. Yeah. So it's a core release, it's not a limited edition. So and you also beat off some real stiff competition.
Yeah. It was fantastic. It was just amazing news. They kind of phoned me that night, just like, oh, do you not want to hear? Because I had a missed call at like 10:30 at night or something, because I know Billy and Dawn really well. And then they're like, oh, you obviously don't want to know. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I'm sad. I'm an old man, but I still play Xbox. I was gaming, and then I just looked and I was like, what the hell? And I phoned, they're like, Ledaig 18 just won. And I was like, oh my God, yes, because we know it's an incredible whiskey, but I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that Ledaig isn't the best known and recognised whiskey in the world, but I think this is going to put Ledaig on a pedestal where it belongs, frankly. We love it.
I think it's one of those really underrated whiskies. People don't really know it so well. We're so used, as you say, like the Isla whiskies, the other smoky whiskies, the other island whiskies get the headlines, but something like the Chig, maybe because it's the alter ego of Tobermory, it kind of remains a sort of hidden gem. But I think it's one of those whiskies, as you say, that's going to become at the forefront of everyone's minds going forward. So yeah, congratulations. Really good. I'm really interested in understanding a little bit about the changes that you made since you've come on at Distell Bernstewart, because you mentioned at the very start that you changed the distillation. Was it I can't remember, you said, was it a longer fermentation that you've changed it to?
Yeah. So I would say that we love Tobermory, and it's an incredible spirit, but sometimes a distillery just tells you in a way, you know, what it wants to do. And when Tobermory Distillery is dealing with heavily peated malt, it just loves it, and it runs like a dream. And it's just almost like, hey, nothing's wrong. It's just like, you know, that super chill friend that you have. That's Tobermory Distillery when it's making Ledaig. When Tobermory Distillery is making Tobermory, it's histrionic beyond even me. You know, it's so up and down and all over the place that you have to watch it like a hawk. So we started working on it. So myself and Cara Gilbert, who's the distillery manager, we started working on, right, what are we trying to do? There's Cara there. So we realised that really what Tobermory needed when we're making Tobermory is just time and a bit of chill, and we need to be really focused on it. So as much as it was a difficult conversation with the bosses, I told them we're dropping a batch a week. So we used to try and do 9 batches a week of Tobermory, small batches, but 9 batches. I was like, we're going to do 8. I think just a couple of hours more fermentation is really going to help, and really just a little bit more focus. And Cara kind of championed this, and she took it and put it into action. So that was like the first big change that I did. The second big change that I did is Cara was the assistant manager. And when I asked her, like, Cara, I remember just quite, I was like, Cara, who are you assisting? You know, because it looks to me like you're running this place? And she's like, you. And I was like, right. I was like, well, that's ridiculous. So I pretty much immediately made Cara distillery manager. And I'm pretty sure she is the youngest distillery manager in the history of Scotland. So she was 27 years old when she became distillery manager at Tobermory, which is just outrageously good. You know, once upon a time, I was the youngest distillery manager when I was 28. So obviously, I was 28 at Oban, so I had to. But good memory. So I had to break my own record, you know. But basically, why did I make Cara the manager? It's because she basically, in my head, she was the manager already, and she's just gone from strength to strength. So she's taken that distillery and ran with it, and is doing some really incredible things. Another big change that I've done since we started. So I think I did correct and enhance and make more consistent the Tobermory production, but I've also tipped the balance. So it used to be 50% of the year we make Tobermory and 50% of the year we make Ledaig. And I was like, I don't think that's right. So now it's, let's say 80% of the year we make Ledaig and 20% of the year we make Tobermory. And the more that I've worked with Tobermory, the more I realise, just a bit like one of my previous whiskies, Glenmorangie, some whiskies just get really incredible with time, and they just need time to really get themselves together, compose, and turn into something incredible. So I made it clear that the youngest Tobermory we'll ever make is the fantastic Tobermory 12. Again, that was one of Julieann's decisions and moves as the newly appointed master blender. We had Tobermory 10, and she just decided that just 2 more years, it almost doubles the quality. You know, it's like a exponential improvement in the quality of the whiskey. So she put the 12 in, and now I kind of set a rule of that's the youngest we'll do. Okay, there's always going to be exceptions. If we find like a really special single cask or small batch and a strong whiskey, maybe, but core range, the youngest we get is a 12. There was then also plans to launch an 18, and I decided to just stall that and hold it up and delay it. And just recently we've launched it as a 21-year-old. So that's basically the only 2 core whiskies you get from Tobermory. And then beyond that, we do all sorts of exciting, but really quite old whiskies. And it's not true of all whiskies. Things don't necessarily get better with age. And I've spent 20 years of my life trying to educate and hammer home that message. And now I came back going, do you know what? Sometimes age really matters. And it does with Tobermory. With Ledaig, it's completely the other way. So we just love, Ledaig's great in red wine. So we've got the Sinclair series. The classic Ledaig is the 10. Smoky whiskey at 10 years old is like a classic. And we absolutely honour that with the fully bourbon matured Ledaig 10. And then Ledaig 18. The biggest thing I've changed is I've made so much more of it available. We really worked hard on the recipe so that we can try, and it's never going to be the #1 selling whiskey in the world, but we're trying to get it onto shelves so that if people do like it, it will be there when they go to buy it. I think that's so important. If people are going to love your whiskey, show them the respect and try and make sure that it's available when they want to try it.
Nice. I think it's a lovely range, and I must have tried the 10-year-old, the Ledaig at one point, but I don't remember now. But I do actually think, you know, this 18-year-old is such great value in itself. It's an absolutely stunning whiskey, and I'm really thrilled that Alistair, who started off this tasting really nervous of trying the Ledaig, has said that it's taken place alongside his Highland peated malts. Love it.
Perfect.
Great.
I was just going to say one other thing. I spotted someone say, because I mentioned Brettanomyces earlier, and they said, is it Brett fermented? No, it's not. It's just the peat and the smoke and the wooden washbacks and just basically everything that distillery does that makes it kind of farmyardy. That's all it is.
Nice. Nicole's partner's loving it as well after a bit of water. Love it. Peated Horlicks, Chris. Please, please, please. You know what I'm going to say. Don't put this in your Horlicks. Well, I mean, you could do, as long as it's not custard. Chris has a reputation for putting his whiskey in random food pairings, and it frankly looks disgusting. So yeah, but do you know what? Do what you want. It's your whiskey, Chris. The whole mantra of our whiskey is your whiskey, your rules. So do you know what? Go for it. Do what you want to do. That's fine. Shall we bring Alex back in, because I'd love to ask Alex a little bit more. We've heard about Cara and Julieann over at Tobermory and the brilliant work that they're doing. But I wanted to ask Alex a little bit more about you and your background, because you've been in the industry for quite a while now, haven't you?
Yeah, I was privileged to start Bushmills on the 19th of April 2004. I joined a team there who were so passionate about what they did. I just couldn't help but fall in love with the industry. I'd grown up in the North Coast and knew all about Bushmills, and my grandfather and father drank it. So to get the opportunity to work there was really exciting for me. I very quickly fell in love with maturation, where you can take something so raw and transform it into something so beautiful, the colours, the aromas. I knew very quickly it was the career path for me. So in 2012, I wanted to basically become qualified, started in 2008 and qualified on Independence Day 2012 to be a blender and distiller. Was so fortunate to work with the team that really must have saw something in me. They spent so many hours telling me all about the different processes of distillation, right through to how the wood, the trees were cut down from the ground to the first branch, how you toasted them, how the American oak needed fired. And there just was such a magic there that I wanted to create something myself, which led on to launching the Sexton in November 2017. It's a single malt, only Oloroso sherry cask. So I totally agree with the love of the Oloroso sherry. It is such an amazing flavour profile and cask. And it became the #1 Irish single malt in America in less than a year of launching, which was phenomenal from someone that was starting out. It's a very young whiskey, approachable whiskey for people that, again, like whiskey, and for ones that wanted to experiment, put it in cocktails, do whatever you want with it. That was one thing Bushmills always taught me. Whiskey is very personal and you should drink it your way. No one should be able to tell you. But really, my career has become a pinnacle now, where in November 2021, Bushmills gave me the great honour of letting me be their master blender. So the Sexton is no longer an only child. It has a huge family of single malts and blends now to be part of. So for me, it really is a dream come true to now be able to give back to such a wonderful industry. I think it really is a family at Bushmills. We all work really hard to ensure the quality of our whiskey goes out the door, whether it's someone working in the accounts department or the person that last sees it going into the bottle. There's such a pride about the place. And when you come, I don't know if it's the angel share that's seeping into us or what exactly it is, but it's very quickly a place that you'll fall in love with. And I think that's the reason why it's been around for so long. The people of Bushmills are so passionate about what they do. They just want to see it grow, and they just want to see it be back to that #1 position. So for me, I feel a real honour and a real privilege to be in the position that I am now, that I can continue to have that experience there, continue that history and heritage of the past, to ensure all of the brands that are there continue to grow and have that same flavour profile. But I get to innovate and I get to experiment and see where Bushmills is for the future. Like, there's something special about that I get to be part of a history. Part of where this brand is going to go. So it's
part of the legacy now. You're part of the story.
Exactly. As I say, it is such an honour to be there. It's been around as the oldest licensed distillery, and hopefully we'll be here many, many years after I'm gone as well. And with phenomenal whiskies like a 16-year-old, I think there's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Chris, I totally agree. There's this kind of fizzy, sherbety note on the nose after you've gone back to it.
Keep going back, and that's the wonderful thing about whiskey. For me, I always like to close the door, close the curtains, tell nobody I've got the bottle, sit back and relax, because each sip opens up something else. Your palate gets used to all of those different flavors, and all those beautiful, delicate notes start to come out. Add a little water, add a little ice, whatever way you want to drink it, but just listen to the whiskey. It's spent such a long time in the cask, gaining this flavor, breathing in and out of the cask. It's been touched by so many people over the years. It needs the time to tell its story. And that's what whiskey's about. It's about making stories for your family, with your friends, but it's also to make the story of the whiskey, give it the time to tell it. That's all we ask.
Totally. Absolutely love that. Listen, everyone, we've got probably about 10 minutes or so left of the tasting. So if you've got any questions at all for Alex or for Brendan, then please do pop them in the chat, and we'll make sure we get some time to get around to them. I'm really pleased you're all enjoying these. Alistair, I feel like every time I choose the whiskies, I'm being judged on whether they're going to be good enough for you guys. But I 100% knew that the ones this month would hit the mark. So yeah, really pleased you're enjoying those, particularly seeing as you were a bit nervous of the Ledaig to begin with. Every time I say Ledaig, I'm really nervous that I'm butchering it, and I'm gonna think about that every time.
But it's almost like, who cares? You know, I always think, as long as, if you're asking for it in a shop or a pub, as long as the person knows to serve you the thing you're after, it's kind of okay. But yeah, but Ledaig is definitely the right pronunciation.
Well, I got so much stick once for doing I made a TikTok about how to pronounce Glenfiddich, and I basically was saying it's not Glenfiddich, it's Glenfiddich. And the amount of people in the comments roasting me, saying it's not Glenfiddich, it's Glenfiddich. I was like, okay, sorry I didn't do that. But it was so bad that I had to take the video down because I was doing a tutorial and even I hadn't said it properly according to proper Scots.
I went on to Reddit. So I'm not on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and Reddit. I've got recently into Reddit. And someone was talking about the pronunciation, and someone said, how do you pronounce these 3 whiskies? And it was some of the standard ones that are really hard. And people were like, oh, and they were saying stuff, and I went, I've been to the distillery, and you're kind of anonymous on Reddit by choice, but when it's actually like a chicken lays an egg, it's lay chick. And somebody wrote back, like, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. What's your source for this? And they said, my source is, I asked and was told that it's pronounced this way by the master distiller. What's your source? And I was like, I am the master distiller. So yeah, it's just social media. The comment sections are always rough.
Love it. Got another comment section. Thankfully, everyone watching this are really nice. I'm always a little bit nervous every time we come on. There might be someone. But everyone is so lovely. I'm so pleased to have all of you part of the OurWhisky journey.
It sounds French, like Le Chic, which I love. So I'm now thinking of the song Freak Out. Is that Niles Rodgers? Yeah. Right, or who did that song? Someone will say the comment.
I'm going to remember that from now on, Tabby. Le Chic. We start referring to it as that every time it wins an award. I'm so pleased that Le Chic has won this award.
I'm putting that on Instagram tonight.
I love it. Well, listen, if there aren't any more questions for anyone, then we could probably wrap this up here. But Brendan, Alex, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing this wonderful whiskey with us. It's been an absolute treat to try the Bushmills 16 again. Absolutely loved it the first time round. Adore it again this time round. And to also taste the Ledaig 18, the award-winning Ledaig 18, which is incredible. I hope everyone's going to go away and decide that they're probably going to buy a bottle and hopefully not drive up the price, because it is an undiscovered gem, I think. And I also want to say a huge thank you to all of you at home for supporting OurWhisky in our very first year. I've got to say, it's not easy running a startup. It's stressful and exhausting, and but I absolutely love sharing great whiskey with you all, and I'm just so grateful that you're part of this journey and enjoying all the whiskies that we're sharing, and long may it continue. But thanks everyone for joining. Really lovely to see you all. Thanks Alex, thanks Brendan, and see you next month.
Keep up the good work, Maggie.
Thanks.
Bye.
Maggie, thank you.
Thank you.